Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
This week, the aliens are back to attack on Independence Day, this time without star Will Smith to fight them. Matthew McConaughey, however, is on hand to fight for a free state of Jones during the Civil War, and Blake Lively fights a shark to try and survive the shallows. Joe, let's talk about Independence Day Resurgence.
It's a very violent podcast. A lot of fighting.
There's a lot of fighting going on. But how effective was this fighting?
Well, we'll find out.
That is a very good question.
When I go through my plots.
Or were we fighting to stay awake during any of these films?
I don't know what you mean, Dan.
It's possible.
We'll find out.
We'll see.
Well, as you mentioned, it is the sequel to the first Independence Day, which was the popular sci-fi action film from the 90s by Roland Emmerich that a lot of people know and love. And this movie, being a sequel, was written by Emmerich again, who directed it, but it was also written by 4 other people. Now, this usually indicates some issues. Now, it also has this ensemble cast with Liam Hemsworth as the main guy. They keep trying to push him as
Make him happen.
Let's make him happen.
Not going so well.
We've got some returning characters played by Jeff Goldblum, Bill Pullman, and Brent Spiner, who is alive. And William Fichtner's in the mix, too, which is good because I like him. As you mentioned, though, Will Smith is absent from this movie, so I think that might have affected some things about it. But the film focuses on the battle, of course, between the Earth Special Defense, which is this international military defense organization, obviously, that fights the returning alien invaders because we've used their technology from when we beat them last time to fight them. And that's basically the plot of the movie. Now, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the first movie because it brings back fond memories of my childhood, often putting it on the background. It just kind of remains one of those enjoyable, big, dumb, but fun popcorn movies that we liked a lot in my house. So when this movie compares, it's dumber than the original, which is saying something. It's a lot dumber. I don't know about you guys, but for me, there was like plot holes coming up so constantly that I couldn't get it, even like the fun stuff, because I just was like, wow, it's so obvious he should be doing this or that, or why is this happening? And that's really bad. Something's not working if this isn't veiled enough, and it must be faltered in a couple other areas. I think this movie shines with fun occasionally when it knows what it is, but that's very sporadic. Most of the time, it's just very, very messy altogether. I'm wondering what you guys thought about it.
Well, to paraphrase a famous political debate from the 80s about Jack Kennedy.
Okay.
We've watched Will Smith. We've enjoyed Will Smith. Liam Hemsworth, you are no Will Smith. I mean, This guy, they're trying to make him happen. He was the most boring part of the Hunger Games. He's terrible here. He is the less talented Hemsworth brother. I like Chris, although as we've even talked about him, other than Thor,
he hasn't a lot of strong points.
And the race car movie, he hasn't, really done a whole lot that we like either.
It's true.
Hemsworth sucks all the fun out of this movie, but I don't think there was that much to begin with. Like, I think you hit on it, Joe. The original was dumb.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. People enjoy it for that reason. And Will Smith has a ton of charisma. Mm-hmm. And he can act.
Yeah.
Hemsworth is just very
He's trying.
Boring and stiff.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I thought some of the acting was okay, and I can't, completely hate on Hemsworth because the way they wrote his character was just, he is something.
You're right.
He's basically Space Maverick.
I mean, yeah, he's like, everybody was so one-dimensional, they got their one thing, and you don't have enough time to really establish these characters because in the first movie, they were simple, but you had time to build up to getting to know them.
Right.
This one, they're just kind of like, here's this guy, and he's got a rivalry with this guy for no real good reason, and wait, is he the main character? No, he's not, it's still this guy.
Yeah.
What? There's a lot of that in this movie.
Hiller's son is in this? Oh, wow, okay, what do we do with this?
Yeah, that was pointless.
Well, here's something else, too. We see a lot of sequels that are basically, redos of the first installment.
True.
But I can't remember ever seeing one where they so consistently alert the audience to it.
Yeah.
Pullman and Goldblum specifically, and Pullman is always terrible in my book. Well, except while you were sleeping.
You should still see Lost Highway sometime.
All right, yeah, I've never seen Lost Highway. Good soundtrack.
Very good.
Yes.
And Goldblum is fine here, as fine as he can be.
It looks like they're entrapping them with a circle.
Like, they're both...
Really?
I don't know what you're talking about, dude.
It seems like they're warning us.
Well, 20 years ago, when we had to fight the aliens,
we've
did
seen
this.
it in the movie.
Maybe this will work again. We know. It was literally one of the biggest blockbusters of all time.
A lot of that, too.
People know.
It's so dumb, you don't have to dumb it down even more for the audience.
Right.
It just makes you seem dumber.
So, yeah, the only things I can really say in the positive are Some of the action sequences are all right. The effects are certainly better after 20 years. But that's about it.
Not 100% though.
No?
Well...
No, I haven't seen the first one in a long time. Maybe the effects were good, but...
Okay, the effects I think for the ships are pretty cool, but one of the cool things about Independence Day, which I learned recently, is that there was very little CGI in that movie. It was mostly practical.
It makes sense for the time period.
Definitely.
And in-cut editings, models, cool fancy camera work. Like, it's a very well-made movie in terms of the visuals, and very little CGI, which impressed me more. And... this one, I don't know, just because it looks a little faster, I don't know if it necessarily makes it better. The ships look more real in the first one to me. But the biggest thing, though, for me, in terms of that which bugged me, is the aliens themselves. Because they're CGI, you'd think they'd be more detailed, but we get very few close-ups of them.
Yeah, you're right.
That one scene in the first movie where the one breaks out and almost kills everybody, I always thought that was a well-done scene, and the effects looked great on it, and it looked like it was there because it actually was, versus this weird CGI thing, which we don't even really get to see that much. So I'm like, why bother having more of them with laser guns if you're not actually going to show us them, not veiled in mist? It's a minor thing, but it did kind of bug me.
Why be so passive about it?
Like, come on, like, if you're going to go bigger, like, for me, okay, if you're going to do a sequel 20 years later to Independence Day, go bigger, right? But this movie's climax was nothing compared to the first one.
No.
Just straight up sequel baiting, which you know how much I love, but...
yeah, it's one of Justin's favorites.
Oh, yes.
What did you think of the movie?
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, after the horrible, horrible atrocity I can only refer to calmly as 1998...
I don't know about 98.
Or 98 for short. I didn't think it was physically possible for Roland Emmerich to disappoint me on such a grand scale. I respectfully stand corrected.
Wow.
So, here's the biggest issue with this movie for me, personally. 20 years has passed. That's a lot of time, and this has been in the works for a long time. I think...
a while.
I was going to say, I think I first heard about it in, 1999, maybe earlier. Needless to say, it's a lot of catching up to do in this world. How does Emmerich handle this? Let's just plop the audience back in there, throw in a couple callbacks, and hope you can keep up. And it's really a pity because there's a lot of really interesting storylines here that I think could have been cool.
True.
But they don't really go anywhere because they're crammed at lightning speed.
The one storyline that interested me the most was kind of the possibility of expanding the universe, which I won't spoil because...
that was my least, actually.
I don't know. I kind of like that because it kind of was an interesting direction for it to go, the possibility that there might be something else, and kind of making a bigger sci-fi universe. I'm always cool with that. And with them having the technology they do have, it kind of makes sense. But, that was my favorite possibility. I'm like, okay, that's cool. If there was a sequel, if they do it well, that could be interesting. That was like the one little grain I thought was okay for me, personally.
The teeny tiny maybe. However, for me, I think if it had actually had more time to expand that and actually be relatively close to the same running time as the original. Usually, I don't want to ever encourage huge epic movies that don't need to be epics, but I feel like in this one where there's literally so much location hopping, you kind of need it to be 2.5 hours to be even remotely.
I didn't need it to be 2.5.
I mean, it felt like 2.5 hours without it, but
you're right. They kind of rush so much around. You kind of need more time to flesh out some of these characters.
Like, why is this person here? Why are they doing that?
Nothing's fleshed out, but kill a couple of the side plots then.
And I can agree with that.
Of the side characters.
Or a couple of the side characters.
But, I mean, I don't want to step on any toes here. The new characters range from mediocre to just not good. The visuals are okay for being as CGI-laden as they are. The battle sequences are few and very far between, which I thought was shocking for Independence Day.
It's true. They were kind of rushed
And then strange, bizarre, makes absolutely no sense Deus Ex Machina scene, which just infuriated me the more I think about it.
Oh, no, I mean, I thought those aliens were, they were strangely incompetent in the beginning, but, they're really incompetent in this movie just based on some of their decisions, which is weird because if they have the technology to do this, then they shouldn't be this dumb.
Truly.
It's just it's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, you said, Justin, that you didn't think Emmerich could disappoint you. By saying disappointed, you were really expecting something of this movie? Because I wasn't. I thought it looked horrible from the trailers.
I mean, I don't think it was ever going to be the first movie. That was just not going to happen. But I feel like after 20 years and this, for the most part, keeping in the public eye, Roland Emmerich might have at least tried to make this somewhat coherent and together. And
it's kind of his baby. You'd think he would care about it a little more. You know, one of his more successful movies, actually.
Well, it is, definitely.
Yeah. You know.
But I think the reason it was so successful, in large part, was because of Will Smith.
And I also don't think it had 5 writers.
No.
Well, no, that's certainly not helping.
No, true.
But you're right. I mean, but that's the thing, though. I'm sure Will Smith would have elevated the movie a little bit, but if the writing was still as bad, I don't think it would have changed that
I was
much.
Say.
I suppose that's true, but at least he's a character we then didn't have to get to know.
We could just jump in.
We only knew really a few of these characters. Because obviously you can't bring Randy Quaid back. He's on the lam in Canada.
Uh-huh.
You know, and if Smith isn't coming back, you really only have Goldblum, Pullman. They, revived Spiner's character, even though he was clearly dead.
He was so dead.
So...
He was having a lot of fun, though.
Yeah, he was, but the comic relief just wasn't there for me in this one.
I think it's because they try to do too much of it.
And borders on caricature, but...
Yeah, I didn't really get any laughs from this. The first one was like goofy fun.
Yeah, like campy, but still enjoyable.
Yes, like a lot of popcorn movies.
Yeah.
All right, well, Joe, what's your grade for Resurgence?
It's a rather disappointing movie. I leave it with a D.
Yeah, it's a D for me as well.
You're not going to hear any argument from me.
This was the movie I was referring to and trying to stay awake. I was fighting for a good 45 minutes in this movie.
I will admit, I wasn't having trouble staying awake, but I did find myself checking the time a few times.
Is that right?
I was like,
I'm with you there.
I'm like, I was trying to stay into it. I'm like, all right, when is this going to end?
Well, it's weird because like the first 10 minutes or so are kind of interesting, and then it gets really, really, really slow until we get to the first battle scene.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that love interest thing for Goldblum, that lady.
Oh, terrible.
She should have
beyond forced.
Her whole role.
There's another one that
merged
you could
into something like.
You could have just cut her.
There's a lot of those, and I think you're right. They should have just dropped a lot of those side plots.
Yeah. All right, well, Justin, let's hear about A Free State of Jones from your top 5 most anticipated.
Matthew McConaughey plays Newton Knight, a farmer who, after seeing endless amounts of death and destruction in the Civil War, decides to return home. He joins forces with his fellow farmers and a few local slaves to make, as the title suggests, a free state of Jones, and rebel against the Confederacy. Kerry Russell and Gugu Mbatha-Raw have supporting roles.
Oh my.
We are officially, after a long, long 2016, at my first pick out the gate, and oh man, did I get burned badly. For about the first third of this movie, I was fairly on board. It wasn't a particularly great Civil War story, but I was at least intrigued. Like, the battle sequences were fairly good. McConaughey looked like he was trying. The costumes are passable, not great. Sorry, I was trying to think of a good choice word there. But then we get to this really, really pointless B story that is interspersed throughout the running time that's, I guess, is trying to impose, like, Knight's legacy, and it feels wildly out of place.
It's a different movie entirely.
Completely different movie.
Well, and they have a scene of it.
Random.
And then go back to it like an
hour
and 10 minutes later.
Oh, yeah, that. And
No.
it was, oh my God.
Because I did turn to my friend about 45 minutes after that scene, and I just said, remember when they were in the courtroom for
Yeah.
some reason?
That really
Like,
threw
why
me.
is this happening?
I was like,
she
wait.
was like, yeah,
Like,
I
I
don't
saw
get
that.
it.
I was like, wait, did I miss something? But I didn't. You know, I was like, oh, wow.
Then a bunch of different side plots that have potential but don't ever carry the emotional weight they desperately need to put it together. And then it just kind of ends. I am very, very curious to see how you guys took this movie.
Oh,
Mr. War.
I apologize.
Well, Mr. History, Mr. War.
Yeah. Mr. McConaughey.
Mr. McConaughey, not quite.
Not enough, all right.
I do like all those three things, so I
True.
guess it's appropriate. Now, I mean, I guess with my interests, I kind of was able to get into this movie. I do agree that the costumes, they work for me, but you could tell there is a little bit of a budget issue. Like, it's very low budget.
It's small.
But I didn't mind it, though, because they used the scenery well. It felt like it was accurate enough. And it was really tackling a really interesting part of history. And I like when they do that in film. When they, like Gangs of New York, for instance, like this period of history in this place that people don't talk about, also Civil War related, you know? And this one's nowhere near as good as that. But I do like that it was tackling something even I didn't know much about. I didn't know much about this, and it was kind of cool seeing the people that disagreed, the poor and the Confederacy, going against the wealthy cotton owners and plantationers, joining the free slaves. Stuff like that did happen. And I think that the problem is, first of all, McConaughey is trying, but his character, I don't know, he's not quite as well defined as he could be.
Well, the thing that's very interesting about him, because I did a little bit of research in preparation for this movie, is his overall portrayal, historically speaking, is incredibly divisive. Like, the surviving Knight family members have often called him out on being manipulative and basically an outlaw.
Well, I mean, the thing is, in terms of, I don't know how they would do it in Confederate history, but maybe in the South he could be considered an outlaw from certain perspectives. I mean, depends on how you look at it.
Oh, I think he certainly would be considered by many.
But then again, the entire Confederacy were outlaws. But then
many would consider him a hero. And, I get it.
And that's fine. And it's interesting, and I could see that being compelling stuff. But my biggest issue isn't what the movie does well. Because I think the first hour or so, when the movie sticks with the gathering of the rebellion and the gathering everybody together, it's pretty cool. And then the second half of the movie, it decides to jump through all these different periods of history, sometimes within a few minutes of each other. And there was one scene that drove me insane where it's like, they stole my son, and this one guy's son is stolen, gets taken back to a plantation, and so McConaughey is saying, no, I'm going to go with you, we'll get him back. 1 year later, then they just run up to the field, so they come back. Wait,
what happened?
Was this literally the next scene? Because they shot it like it was. Or that was the biggest problem, is they'd go through one little chunk of history, here's election stuff, cool story, only 10 minutes long. And then we're going to jump to another part where they're getting hanged and attacked.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was the biggest thing, is that
this stuff is kind of important, but
hits its halfway mark, and then they decided, wait, there wasn't enough with the rebellion. We got to tackle all the Reconstruction stuff too, but we don't have enough time to tell a lot of it. So we'll do a little bit of stuff, and then some documentary slides, and it's kind of like a decent, History Channel dramatization, I guess.
Well, that's kind of how I thought about it. I mean, I think I may have liked it the most, actually, of the three of us. I'm not sure, but I do think it's a bit stiff and a bit educational as opposed to entertaining.
It's not necessarily bad.
But it's not necessarily bad. I was far more interested in this film than Independence Day. I wasn't fighting to keep awake in this one. I appreciated the character. I agree that maybe there are things that could have been done better with him, but I thought McConaughey did a fine job. I don't think it's going to win him his next Oscar here, but
definitely not.
Clearly he was attempting. He goes a little Oscar baity sometimes, but
smidge.
I thought he did a good job. I thought a lot of the African American actors did good jobs. We don't really know a lot of them, fame wise, but I've seen a couple of the faces here or there, but the whole thing with that weirdo B story about his legacy,
that was the worst part.
It was so bad, but they touch on it really so little. It's only in the last 20 minutes of the movie that they're really going back to it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like I said, you get that one maybe minute-long scene, and then nothing for over an hour. So,
doesn't really hurt it that much.
Yeah, I can't say it hurts it that much, because really, until the end, it's not really part of the story.
It isn't, but it still sticks out like a sore thumb.
It really does.
Well, it does, and it, for me, I certainly thought, okay, where are we going with that?
Yeah.
That we haven't seen in so long, and it doesn't make any sense. But I don't think it's enough to, really bring the movie down just because it's so slight. I agree that the gathering of the rebellion is very cool. I think the standoffs are cool. The voting scene was interesting.
Not enough. Way too short.
Yeah, not enough of it.
Like maybe. A lot of things in this movie.
Like a lot of things in this movie. Weird for a 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah.
Considerably, yeah.
That there would be a lot of things left out story-wise. But I don't know. I mean, I certainly learned a bit from it. And I think the character is interesting enough to keep the film afloat. Some of the female characters are okay.
Yeah.
None of them really were standouts. We all like Gugu Mbatha-Raw, Kerry Russell. Their characters, Mbatha-Raw's was pretty integral.
Definitely.
Kerry Russell was kind of like in a group.
She was kind of sleepwalking.
Yeah, like she's in a group of maybe like 3 or 4 women in this movie who just don't really have enough characterization to care about.
Yeah.
Joe, what's your grade for The Free State of Jones?
It was all right. Leave with a C+.
Okay. Yeah, all right, I'm right with you. C+ for me.
Has a couple moments where it could have been great, but it's a gigantic missed opportunity. D+.
All right. Well, we've all had a D+ now for our top 5 most anticipated. I know, maybe The Boss I gave a C-.
Yeah.
But certainly not a positive. No. All right, well, finally we have The Shallows, and Blake Lively stars almost alone in this film as Nancy, a surfer who finds a hidden beach that her now-deceased mother went to 25 years earlier and also surfed there. It's so hidden, only 2 other people are there, and once they head out, Nancy waits for one more wave when she spots a shark, or rather a shark spots her, you could say, and she spends the next 70 minutes or so of the film trying to fight it off over the course of a couple of days and hope for rescue. A friendly bird dubbed Steven Seagal co-stars.
Like that part.
I knew you would. Yeah, I mean, he's really the second
lead.
The second lead in the movies is Bird.
I'm glad you noted that joke because I would have.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's about the only joke in the movie.
True.
I mean, there's not too much humor in this. Director Jaume Collet-Serra, I'm going to say, who's helmed most of the non-Taken Neeson performances, including Nonstop.
Man.
Definitely knows from Close Quarters, from that film. And he knows how to make the most of it, and I believe that he does it again here. Now, the film is shot beautifully and effectively, and Lively is, I thought, really up for carrying this film. Yeah, I thought she was very lively. And they give her enough backstory to make it plausible. She's in nursing school, for instance. So, okay, she would know how to tie a proper tourniquet. She would know how to stitch herself, with what she has handy. The side plot about her mother dying is a bit unnecessary, a bit forced. But I don't know. I thought the thrills were fairly gripping. The last 10 or 12 minutes goes, crazy, and nothing really seems to make sense.
It's my favorite part.
Fire Shark, I don't really know about.
Yo, Fire Nado returns. Shark Fire Nado.
I thought about Fire Nado.
It is not Fire Nado.
It's pretty close.
Actually pretty close.
It was like, if this shark is on fire, yes.
It's not quite as integral to the plot as Fire Nado.
Shark flare, let's go!
It's about as bizarre and from out of nowhere.
That was good.
That was, a questionable thing, but no, I don't know. I mean, I thought Lively did a good job. I think it's concise. It's in its nearly 90 minutes. How did it work for you guys?
After a summer of, I'm just gonna say it, near constant disappointment, I was really surprised by this one. I was expecting Open Water 2 for anyone who had to suffer through that monstrosity that was proportioned to be the next Jaws, and it wasn't even remotely. Rant over. But no, this one I thought was very well contained, gave us a likable enough character. The social media stuff had mixed feelings about, obviously worked within its narrative confines, but did we need the constant oh look, she's FaceTiming, oh look, she's scrolling through pictures. Yes,
it goes away pretty soon though, because she doesn't have her phone once she gets out in the water.
Some camera stuff later.
Yeah, a little bit.
Then we get the GoPro, and
I thought it was kind of cool. I like the GoPro.
Yeah, I thought it was fine.
We'll go with using more of that.
It's nice, but after seeing it 9 different movies, it's like, pick a new technique. But
yeah, he did it in Nonstop as well with the scrolling text messages.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But no,
Listen,
for me, the biggest setback from this is just, you're right, Dan, it is an incredibly intense movie. But every time they interject the horrible CGI animals, because at first there's a dolphin and then comes the shark, and they're both just unbelievably bad CGI. It ruins all terror almost immediately. And
I thought the shark was okay.
I like the shark.
Man, the shark is not good.
Oh no, I like the shark.
There's much worse sharks out there.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Jaws 19.
Nothing will ever be as bad as
Exactly.
Great Back to the Future reference.
Yeah,
but
thank you.
I mean, nothing will ever be as bad as Deep Blue Sea, but it's not.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I actually thought the shark was fine, CGI wise.
In the dark, underwater, he was fine. I thought some of the shots they used worked pretty well.
I do agree the dolphin was pretty hideous.
Dolphin was silly.
And I didn't get when she goes up on him at one point to kind of get some leverage and to get out of the water, and she basically puts her whole hand in this sore. That was really corny looking,
Oh yeah.
But no, I thought the shark was fine. Obviously, you don't. That's fine, but
it's got some hit or miss scenes for me. And then I also thought we didn't really need the ridiculously tacked on epilogue, which just
they had to do it.
That was a little cheesy.
It was corny.
But no, I thought this was good for what it was. Definitely popcorn entertainment, but better than we've gotten thus far this summer, I think.
Yeah, I think it was surprising. Joe?
Yeah, I think it's. I kind of like these lower budget harkens to classic horror. They're always good. Kind of reminds me of some of our favorite films, or some of mine at least. You got some mid follows, some guests.
Yeah, true.
Kind of was along those lines.
Green Room.
Green Room. This one was kind of like a sort of a Jaws like throwback, which I appreciated. And
yeah.
I was very surprised because I thought this was gonna be horrible.
Yeah.
Because it's another horror movie, another low budget thing. I just thought it was gonna be terrible.
And the reviews started coming in on Rotten, and I was intrigued because they were very positive.
Yeah, and I got it, and I thought Blake Lively was good.
Yeah.
I thought the character was pretty well developed. I liked the acting. I thought that it was shot well. I thought the tension was pretty good. I didn't mind the shark. I thought most of the scenes worked. Yeah. And I did like that it got a little campy towards the end. I thought that was appropriate for what they were going for.
Yeah, I guess it comes with the territory.
If you're going up against it, okay, you're fighting a shark. It's going to happen. I thought...
But Fire Shark
was great. Steven Seagal definitely upped it a little. That was
arguably
good.
Stole the show, but...
he was a good character.
He wasn't bad.
And also, the only minor thing about it was I thought they overused the slow motion a little bit. Every time there was tension, slow motion again.
True.
We get it.
If you're trying to do this in real time, commit to it.
Yeah.
We don't need The Shallows as directed by Zack Snyder.
Well, they're not going for real time. I mean, she's out there a good couple of days.
Yeah.
Well, they're trying to go with it's realistically moving at X amount of hours before high tide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not real time.
It's not
I didn't mind I thought the slow motion was a little overused. I agree,
but it wasn't terrible. I liked it the first or second time, and then I got a little tired of it. But honestly, other than that, and the fact the ending was a little too tacked on, the way it was handled,
the epilogue.
It wasn't the epilogue. Yeah. I didn't really hate it. From a story standpoint,
unnecessary.
It just was I think it would have been fine without.
I agree.
But really, those are my only real issues with the movie. I thought it was very good for what it was. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty well done.
Yeah. Well, all right. What's your grade?
I leave it with a B+.
Okay, B- for me.
B.
All right. Well, that will do it for the show. A pretty quick one this week. Next week we'll have movies like The BFG and The Legend of Tarzan and another horror film, The Purge. So some interesting stuff. Joe, you got some good stuff going on your channel.
Yeah, I got the Death Proof reviews up. And I did a little discussion about sci-fi films and modern cinema.
You just started a Facebook page yourself.
Yeah, I realized you guys did the group page for Film Fanatics, and I had one too. But I realized, why don't I try to get more people involved in that as opposed to just a couple people? And so most people are sticking around.
Good.
That's very nice.
I got one subscriber. He was like, "Who are you?" And I'm Merlin the Mighty. And then he made an FMA reference about equivalent exchange. Well, how about a link for a subscription? I'm like, hey, here it is. And
nice.
There you go.
That was pretty cool. Just some random guy I thought I knew, who I guess I didn't. But so
hey, that works.
It was cool, and I'm trying to post it in my group too, so maybe more people might come here. I think we gained a sub or two from that.
I believe we did, yeah.
So I hope so.
Awesome. And you can check out our Facebook group as well, which is Film Fanatics with an exclamation point. The Twitter feed at Film Fanatics Pod, and our upcoming old classics will include the 80s comedy month. So if you have a listener's choice suggestion for 80s comedy, let us have that, and we'll roll that out. Joe's pick was very interesting, which we'll get to.
You could say it was.
We can not spoil it for you, listeners.
You could say it was a comedy.
Kind
of. Oh dear.
Not in it, but yes, close. All right, well that's gonna do it. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you back here next time.